Welcome to the most impromptu, unorganized series of stock watches on this side of YouTube. But it's your boy Jacob Armstrong, joined here with Jared Denny, and we just saw we are hosting this almost 24 hours after the tribal council, and I I am speechless, Jared. Let me just say, am. I am still confused as to what happened this last round. It's Jared, please put put the blind side into perspective for the people watching this right now. Like
It's hard to put in perspective because it's like, how did this literally happened ninth hour? Something worse than ninth hour because it's literally happened seconds, seconds before tribal. Um, the thing though is that it was just we're seeing repeated action by certain players who will never learn from their previous actions, and because of those players, we will continue to see these last second flips. And apparently it's just getting worse each time when they decide to flip. And also this cast can make a decision to save their life. So we're
we
bound to we're bound for these flips.
I'm surprised that like how in BB 26 when Chemo's speech saved him. I'm waiting for someone to answer at tribal council to change the vote, the trajectory of who's going home. Like we are on the Zoom that Tawny had set up, about to send the link to the announcements for them to join for tribal council. And I'm hearing Tawny joining a call of Caleb saying, "Why don't we just take out J1?"
Wait, that was
Like,
me.
or
Or
it
no,
was
wait, was Tawny in the call also before me?
I don't know, but I just remember hearing from one of your twos, and I hear Caleb because like y'all listening to it, but you're not muted. You're muted in the call, but not muted on the
Yeah,
Zoom
yeah, yeah,
that
yeah. That
we're in.
was me.
And it was like, let's just get rid of J1. I'm like, what the fuck is that? Like, it's not happening. It was like, we gotta get rid of Jared. Like, we're setting this, and Donnie needs to hurry up the players to get on the Zoom because they're still there trying to figure out the semantics of like if this would work or not. And I kind of want to start off the stock watch talking about J1 because like what what happened? I'm still perplexed. I gave J1 because screw checking my phone at this point. I gave J1 a 4 last round because I said his position was deteriorating and that he working with the Golden Girls, that's the name of that group, right? With like Billy and
Yes.
Mikey, all that is terrible for him. Like I thought that was like he needed Bryant in there, he needed Lily in there, he needed like to like strengthen his bond with Edward. Like I feel like that didn't include nearly enough people that were good for J1, and to see a lot of the people that I didn't list as people that he needed. I guess kind of like Edward, like the Calebs, the Jeremy, Ryu, Edward, like they ended up sniping him in this position with not even being the only person taken out with an idol in his pocket. I completely forgot he had an idol. That's how good and low key he has kept this piece of information. And we see a lot of like the blowback, the aftermath immediately after tribal council of Lily mentioning J1's idol. It was like and I think Caleb, Ryu, and Edward could try and like cope with this after the fact. It's like, well, now we definitely couldn't have told you now because you would have told J1 to play his idol. Like we didn't want to run that risk. We wouldn't want to run that risk. J1 this season, just as a whole, I think had a very similar trajectory to his last game. He started off really strong. He was in the core alliance. It was a trio, coincidentally, just like in this season as well. But slowly over time, his position started to wane and worsen. And the prospects he had, the potential he had was great. Like if like once the big people were starting to gun for each other, the problem was in that game he was the least threatening and the least like sketchy of his crew. Like he had other people who were bigger jury threats that were bigger strategic threats than him, and he was recruited at the last possible opportunity to make a move. This is around the point where like his side starts like losing numbers, like at nine here. Like technically it was 10, but like nine definitely wasn't stopping that in that regard. But people were clocking that he was playing in the middle. Like Edward and Jeremy were talking about this much earlier on, which I did not take as any sign. I took it as like trying to set up J1 for maybe the next boot after this point, or maybe like 2 rounds down the road. And I feel like J1 needed to do more work and needed to feel less comfortable um, for him to go far in this game. He gets blindsided at the 11th hour, but it's hard for me to say, oh, he should have done better. Because like yeah, like he got voted off. Like he wasn't getting voted off this round until 9:30. Literally, if I feel bad for saying this because this could hold us liable for his departure. But if the tribal was not at 9:30, it was only at 9 o'clock, like it always is. Maybe this does not happen, but I don't know what to rank him because it's like tentative three. He doesn't play his idol. That's bad. Um, he Barca gets taken out in this position where I didn't think he was the best move for most of the people involved. I think that is bad. Um, and I do why knock them for doing this when we get to those four people involved in this move. Granted, I do think one of them benefits from this. Um, it's still a knock on J1 for not conveying to them that, oh, like I'm a valuable piece right now. You shouldn't get rid of me. But Jared, you can give me your thoughts on J1.
I feel like Jay, um, the way he was in this game is like a lot of players are. Um, his inactivity kind of like he wasn't like super inactive is the thing, but at the same time he wasn't super active. Like Lily, Caleb, Lily, Edward, Ryu, who are like the core people in this round of the chaos is revolving around them and they're deciding everyone's fate. What hurt him really was his inactivity because Caleb, the quickies, Caleb, Ryu, Edward, and Lily, well, really, Caleb, Ryu, and Edward got freaked out by his inactivity. And oh wait, oh, okay. Um, and they were like, oh, they're scheming because also these like players are just so paranoid for absolutely no goddamn reason. Um, so he needed to improve that. But in like the one call he had with Ryu that I heard, like it seemed like a good call. But at the same time, I feel like Ryu was doing his same old shtick that he gave with everyone. Jay was doing a shtick with him as well and being like, oh yeah, like I'm really liking the vibe with you and whatever. And I'm like, I feel like both of them like really don't actually trust each other and they're just telling each other that they want to work with each other. Um, but it's kind of like he had the same mistakes as voted off player past. He didn't have anything solid. And so, because he didn't really have anything solid with anyone, his game crumbled below him, and there was no one to protect him from it. He thought he had Caleb, but everyone thinks that they kind of have Caleb. Um, he wait, what did he rank Lily? Did he think of a versus J? He
I
thought he
can.
had Lily. He didn't have Lily. I confirmed on the power rankings.
Okay, okay, okay. Yeah.
Um, so he didn't have anything to help him out in this 11th hour. So it's hard to, I don't blame him for not playing the idol. Like I don't knock him as much as I do Sanam for not playing the idol.
Four
Because
thousand
for her,
percent.
she knew she was in danger. She sent the GIF of, the one, I can't think of the guy's name from Simpsons.
Yeah,
Just being like, haha, I'm in danger.
gotta
Um,
find it because that's been bugging me. That's that episode. But continue.
So I don't really knock him as much as that, but the
Ralph.
Golden Girls Alliance. Oh yes, Ralph.
Ralph Wiggum.
Yes. The Golden Girls Alliance, I never really put stock into because that combination was just so strange and so unnatural. Um, and he was like trying to force it. But at the same time, the two other people that you included in it, Aaliyah and Mikey, are like Mikey has ways of inactivity, and we'll get to Aaliyah this round. Um, so it just nothing went right for him. So and he's so hard to rank. I obviously have to knock him down from the four because he went home. And also I have to factor in the fact that he could have done more this round to potentially save himself and because he could have had more conversations. But I don't want to knock him too much because he kind of didn't do anything wrong other than activity.
You're convincing me to bump his score with your speech. It's like, yeah,
I'm like is he a two? Is he a three? That's all I'm like really
yeah.
debating.
I think I'll stick it out with a three, although you've lowered what three it is. Maybe like it's a 2 point like 7, 2.8. So it averages rounds up to a three.
Hmm.
But yeah, no. Whereas this was like a 3.5. Like, what do these mean? For those asking, we've been doing this the whole Stockwatch. So if you're confused now and asking this, I don't know. It's just like quality. It's just like I had to give like a grade, just 1.0 to 10.0. Um,
It's just so well, we tried to go lower than a 1.0, but it hasn't worked.
as a,
I think I'll give him a three, but it's like a low three, maybe like a 3.0. It's like really, it's like so close.
there is someone who I will give lower than a three. The Stockwatch
Ew. I knew it.
didn't vote. This. I said it. If you don't vote, you get a one. Okay, okay, but seriously, if you want to talk about your thoughts on the immunity winner first, and then I'll come back and maybe give like a more genuine.
The
That's my
immunity winner. Um, I mean, there's not much to talk about with her game because she got off work, she did some things. She had like one call, I think, with Ryu, and then I think she ate food and then passed out for the rest of the night. And I'm like, I don't know how someone sleeps that much. I wish I could. Um, but like if you're looking at the Edgic, she's like invisible this round. Like she's that random like she's not a purple player, but like this round she was a purple player. And it's like that random person, they're like, wait, they're in the game and how'd they win immunity? I forgot they were here. Because she was purple this round. Um, and so there's nothing she has like nothing to be graded on. She's lucky she had immunity. I don't think this would have happened if she didn't have immunity. I think that her having immunity played a factor in it. And I'm also convinced that what happened last night is happening tonight, and she is just passed the fuck out. Um, so it's like I feel like the one is deserving because she was just so invisible. She literally had no influence this round because she fell asleep. Like, do you know the Friends reference of you fell asleep? Like, that's how I feel right now. And I guess I had to give her the one because she was just so purple, literally had no factor in it. And it's like, I don't want to give her a one, but
I
when she does the action she does, she deserves the one.
I I I want to change her color from pink to purple so bad just to drive home how annoyed I am about this because she there's some things that are confusing about this round. Both her reaction to J1 getting sent home after the fact, which I guess does not factor into round nine, but everything revolving touchy subjects. Because what is worse than winning the category. Like, oh, most likely to win. What is worse is when running the challenge, someone else gets the majority of the answer, and then they're not even the answer. I've been in that situation before where I was not voted for most likely to win my season of Kaleidoscope, but most of the people thought that's what the answer was. So it's like this perceived, like this illusion of like win equity is like, oh, I think that most other people think this person's gonna win, but then when you see the actual votes, it's like, oh, I guess it's not. It's some other person. But like that threat still exists without like as much actual win equity. Like I think Caleb would mop the floor with Aaliyah right now. Like based off of like how we've been talking about Caleb's game up until this point. Um, I would say that she's purple. If she didn't win immunity, because that makes it all the more confusing. Like this is a game where this challenge is one where it assesses the accuracy of people's reads of the game, not just like the game that's what's going on, but people's perceptions of others. So some of these are funny ones, like who would be this role if they had the choice to be, a vampire, a fairy, a human, whatever. And most of these have some game implications as well. So whoever wins this is probably somebody with a really good read on the game and is clearly very perceptive and intelligent. So people like Lily doing good make a lot of sense. She's very personable. She's spending the time getting on these calls, talking with these people, and getting a good understand of them and their like psychosis. But someone who has been comatose for half of this merge, I would be shocked. Like, how did they gather this information in the short period of time that they're in? And it's at a point where it's even I'd argue this is more embarrassing because she's immune. Like it feels worse. Like I'd understand if like Kiki's cat. I'm just she can't even self vote. Is the thing. She just simply just does not have a vote. We have one less vote, and we could have had people the shenanigans. Like no, Aaliyah just didn't vote. Like couldn't self vote. Like that's sad. I and we have now. Is this round immune? Like void of any positives for Leah's game. No, not entirely. We have J1, whom, the alternative was Mikey going, which it looked like it was going to be for a good chunk of the round, which she did not do anything to steer it away from Mikey, nor did I think that she was even aware of the fact that Mikey was even on the chopping block, I feel. Which, why would people tell Aaliyah that Mikey's going home? Like it wasn't going to be ever be the case. So I guess in that sense, it's good. Jeremy's talking after this fact, saying that he thinks he can probably like there's only three people here that he feels confident about like his winning prospects against. Aaliyah's on that list, which like granted, not the most positive thing on the planet, but there's at least someone being like, I think I can take her there. Whether Jeremy will be able to pull this off or not, or actually commits to this, because this is Jeremy that we're talking about in his project. Um, I don't know. Maybe Megan will make him do it. But that's it. I really tried to grasp at straws. Like it has been very frustrating, and just seeing her so quickly reconcile with the people after the fact as well, which like I guess is good because Caleb and Rhea were talking after this fact saying, "Oh, they got to lock in the final three with Aaliyah," but it's like unless it's a bitter jury, that's her round. That's her because like the fact that she was voted the majority, or majority of people thought that that's what the majority voted for. That superlative, like, who's most likely to win. Maybe she has just inherent win equity, just because maybe she conveys or conducts herself in a way that comes off that like, she's this capable player, which she is when she's trying and when she's around. And maybe if in a scenario where she's up against Caleb and Ryu and someone like a Lily, someone like a Bryant, someone like a J1, someone like a Cert feels burned by these people. And Aaliyah is this affable person who didn't pull off the bullshit that they pulled off. Then maybe she wins based off of that. But that's not anything to do with her actions. It's the misdeeds of others. Like it's not off of her good gameplay. It's other people's bad or suboptimal gameplay. So I've been giving her a one. But maybe maybe she'll finally wake up, metaphorically and literally.
The thing, like that final three that you mentioned, like there's a world where she could at least get second. Like I think worst in case in that would probably be second because I mentioned this in the prod chat today. I think that right now, depending on how the jury is, I feel like people voted out from J and onward, it could be bitter towards Ryu. And however he is in that FTC, if he were to make it there, would really dictate how they vote for him. Because his shenanigans that he did at Tribal really pissed people. Well, I say pissed people off. I pissed Lily off. But I think other people agree with Lily that they're, over this. Um, so I mean, there's a path for her forward, but she has to put in more work.
I think that's a perfect segue to talking about Ryu. Actually, did you want to go first about him, or did you
I
want me?
can.
You can't. Okay, I thought you said you can't, and I was like, fine, I'll buy you time. So I was,
I just looked at the trust rankings. I saw he was number two, and I was like, "What the fuck?"
well,
But
that's
I
not
guess
going to be the case. That's not going to be the case anymore.
the weird thing about him is I was feeling really positive about him in this round until the 11th hour hit, and he started doing these actions of his. Like like he was feeling. I felt that he was like in this kind of like middle position of somehow like being in everyone's ears and like somehow avoiding being said. But I think that partial part of that was the fact that he has an idol and no one is willing to take the shot at him. But at the same time, I don't know how much people are actually taking him seriously because of how he's coming across in this game by the other players. He got voted villain. Um, I don't know if I I don't know if he's necessarily the villain of the season. Um, but of course, I don't know who I would have voted for villain. Um, but he's he was slash is like not in a bad spot, but he's just tanking his own game by his actions. Um, so he's really hard to rate because of that. Like he had a call with almost everyone on the who was left in the game, except for maybe Mikey, I want to say. And yeah, I think that Mikey was the only one he didn't have a call with. So I was like, okay, that's really good. And I felt like he was doing like an okay job of like navigating this round. Um, but people are getting sick of his shit. So I don't know how to rate him. Is it like, do I go like higher? Because like he's wasn't doing bad in that aspect, but then his Cyndaquil shit, like people hate are getting tired of. So I might need to hear you talk before I can give an official rating.
Got
But
it.
also, I truly don't know how he was second in trust rankings.
Don't know how that's honestly because before this book, obviously we were complimenting him just last round. I was like, but I also mentioned the inevitability of him reverting back to his old Ryu ways, where actually instead of being Ryu, he turns to be Ken Masters, to draw that parallel. A little bit more brash, a little bit more arrogant, a little bit more full of himself, a little bit more reckless. Like to play that portion of the game because it seemed like every other round he felt like we were doing really good work, doing a lot of good damage control. And to his credit, we were criticizing why the hell does Lily trust him as much as he did for like the bullshit that he's put her through, both with the Morgan of it all, the green of it all. And for him to somehow end up as number 200 trust rankings is insane. And to his credit, immediately after this point, he, okay, here's the thing. I was not on this call. I know you were, I knew Tawny was, but I'm in a Zoom with Tawny and I hear it in the background. I am laughing my ass off. Not because I think Lily laughing is funny. I didn't see it. I felt for her, but how badly Ryu was handling that conversation and how hilarious I thought that was outweighed the empathy I had for Lily in that moment. That's how bad he was handling it and how poorly he was reading that room. So I think if there's any person on this cast that is a potential victim of a bitter jury, it would be him. And it's different from someone I think having their feelings hurt and mistake like I've even asked this at tribal council, like mistaking a lie and just playing the game, playing within the confinements of the game as to like a personal attack. That's one thing because I do think that we do still have some responsibility as players, as people who know what we signed up for, to be as objective and as fair as possible. And I think there's a lot of people who try to grasp at straws just to justify not voting for someone who didn't give them the win, essentially. Like they didn't give up their game for them. Like, and I think it's ridiculous. And so, which that I would feel bad for that person. But there's people who actively alienate others, who treat people in a way and pull off moves, and the aftermath of said move so badly that they garner a negative rapport with the jury. And I could see Ryu very much being subject to that. I think that Ryu has done lots of good work from even including the Sergio boot itself, which at first I was critical of, but seeing how well he was able to recover, I thought that in spite of him getting all these bad superlatives, for the most part, um, people were treating it as more like a joke. Like people were like obviously aware of the fact that obviously he's done the things that he's done, and maybe he would have been a danger further down the road. Because again, this was a guy who, despite his Tony Vlacho shenanigans, which I think that's just if he wins, that's his story. Is that he's Tony Vlacho's and Cagayan, um, but was still like, but respect because like obviously he was voted for as a lock for All Stars as well, and I think got a couple votes for who is most likely to win the game. But now I'm just like now I'm like scared to ever rank him well ever again because I'm pretty sure I said that last time too. Like if he pulls some bullshit off, I'm never gonna trust any good work he does ever again because now I'm losing trust and faith that he will ever be able to just mellow out. Um, but like at the point where like Lily's talking to Bryant and eventually saying like, oh, we could throw Ryu into a hypothetical group. I'm just pissed off. He just annoys the fuck out of me. That I'm just like, why is she even considering working with this man any longer? It's kind of insane. And why does he keep trying to invest in people that he keeps burning over and over again? And I'm intrigued and what I want to hear because he did mention, is it a final two or a final three? Because it changes how he plays, and they will learn at final six, that it's a final three. I'm curious to see what he does. I'm curious to see who he takes to the end, and I'm curious to see if there is a combination of people that he can beat if he gets to the end. So I give him just this whole time I'm ranting. I'm giving him a four. I've been waffling like a bunch of numbers. Like I could have given him as low as a three. Um, I think five, six, maybe the highest I could possibly have offered him. But four, I feel like contemplating five. So if you say five, totally fair. If you're considering lower, like 2-1 territory, I'd also understand.
See, that's the issue is that he has such a range. The thing that I want to bring up with the aftermath is the fact that people don't see things that he's done as moves. So they really don't see him as doing any big move or anything since Morgan left, I believe, was the last thing that they consider like his move. Like, I don't think they're going to give him credit for Sanam. Um, he was trying to be like, well, let you take out Sergio. Like, I let y'all get rid of Sergio. And they're like, bruh. So whatever Lily says, brother, you fucked up. It is always great to hear. Um, but yeah, the thing, my point is that people just see him as this like goofy guy and they don't like take him seriously because he's doing all these like Tony Vlachos things, but like in a non-Tony way, where it's like people knew Tony was like serious about the game, but like they aren't taking him seriously. And if he gets to FTC, it's like he'll try to claim something, and everyone's just gonna be like, "Shut the fuck up!" Like you, we're not giving you credit for that move, even though you're gonna spew all of it. Um, so his winner potential, I need to see improving. He needs to not stop you during your countdown to not play the idol. Um, he has like little things he needs to improve on before he can actually be considered a winner again or a candidate to win. But he's just so hard to rank. Like, I guess, I guess I'll give him a five because like he somehow has social connections, but like if his shenanigans continue, he's just gonna keep dropping lower.
Yeah, it's Ryu's probably the weirdest player. Even like postseason, I'm gonna have a hard time ranking him as a player because there's like so much good work and so much bad work. Even like there's times where I've seen people in orgs or in the actual show get away with things that I'm like, they got away with on this cast that they would not get away with on others. That's like ranking someone in estimations as a player and whether or not a move is optimal. I think is just trying to think like universally, like how many people would this work? How many people would get away with this? Or like when how many scenarios or situations would that person get away with this stuff? More times than not, he's not here. Like the fact that he's at final eight in area is insane. Like even whether he gets eighth or a placement better than this, obviously is naturally yet to be seen. Um, but it's like I don't know. I'm just confused. I will never forever. I'm just gonna just believe this. He's just gonna do something dumb again, just for fun for funsies.
Add this.
You froze, by the way.
Oh, I am?
Oh, wait,
Wait, am I still frozen?
okay, yeah, okay. Now you're good. Now you're good. Are you? Oh, damn, damn. It's technical difficulties.
I don't know what's going on.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
What
you're
the
better.
hell? Okay. Oh, so it was me. I was the problem guy. It did say my internet connection was unstable. What
I
the?
sucked.
My goodness.
It's me. Hi.
Is there someone?
But yeah, like no, go ahead, go ahead. I was just gonna repeat the same thing again. No, no, I was literally repeating the same thing again because I wasn't sure if you heard it.
God. Um. Oh, wait a minute. Who do we want to talk about now?
I don't know. That's
I
the thing.
I kind of want to go to Ryu's neighbor. Kind of going to talk about Mikey a little bit because I think Ryu wasn't important this round as much as the shenanigans he pulls off post round, post J-Wad's eviction elimination. I think that's what makes it noteworthy. Like this round for him, like was it even like within the confines of round nine? So I kind of want to get to like some of the main players, the people most affected by this move, the people who I most accredit to making this decision. Um, and I feel like we got to get to Mikey first because Mikey is kind of not there still. And like we were giving him credit, like it's improving, but I feel like now it's like going down. And he was going to go home. He was, as of 9:29 p.m., before the tribal council about to take place in a minute, was supposed to be going home. Um, and knew none the wiser. Just believed it was going to be a Jeremy boot, which was, but then ended up voting like the decoy like against the decoy. Like he didn't even end up in the second plan. He ended up in a third plan that was not even on and the cards anymore. Even for the people who thought like, oh, the people who didn't vote for Jeremy thought they pulled a one up on Mikey, got one up pulled up that like it's horrible. And like granted, maybe like if Aaliyah was like awake, then. like Jeremy could have caught more votes. Like it would have been 4-3-2 instead, so maybe it doesn't look as bad. But just knowing what we know, like of how things were moving around that round was not looking good for Mikey long term. I just I don't think people are like for sure like Ryu. I think people are not taken seriously, which is fair. I think at some point they were, and at least like kind of giving some respect to like he's trying things, he's doing things and I will vote for that player that I don't take seriously because the hijinks that they ensue versus the person who just isn't ever doing anything. Like he won the first immunity, um, and has just been a non-offensive player. That's Mikey's way here. Like, and not to try to say like, how dare he still be here over someone like J1. Like, I'm not gonna do that or like Kevin. Like ultimately you make it here, you deserve to be here. But it's just there's not much to really talk about as far as Mikey's progress in this game. Their odds better, and I don't think that their win equity is there. I look at the people left in this game, and I'm confused, and I don't know who he wins against. Like I know Kevin when he was getting sent home was like, oh, Mikey's just going to catch votes until he just wins the game. I guess like it just people will vote Mikey because of his story, but I don't think. Well, Mikey was about to go home last round. It had nothing to do with this story. Yeah, I don't think it did. At least I think it was more so just to do just people don't feel connected with him. Don't feel like he's that valuable to them long term. So I'm also going to give him a one. He was going to go home for a good chunk of this round. He did not know it. He didn't vote in the majority either. I actually did go back to see his voting record, and he has the worst voting record here. He's voted Zach, and he's voted Kevin out, but that is it. Did not vote Morgan out. Did not vote Tommy out. But due to this disadvantage, that's a bit weird.
Yes.
That's a bit wonky. But also didn't vote Sergio out and didn't vote J1 out here. So obviously his voting record's obviously deflated due to his disadvantage, which like good on him for obviously surviving that. But just like he's still continuing even without this, still voting in the winner, which is not good.
Sorry, I'm looking at his voting record. Oh, he couldn't vote for Issa because he wasn't there. Um, he had to vote the minority there, like you said, had to vote the minority there. Um, yeah, Mikey is s- interesting because yeah, we were like you said, we were giving him credit, for being more active, but it's like on, you know, like a drag race or like, a reality competition show where it's like you are being judged on like your craft. At a certain point, like the stuff that we were giving you props for early on, you can't receive props for it anymore because the curve has changed. And so you need to improve. So, like, we understand that things happen and like you can just like be busy, but I feel like there's still ways you can still do stuff in the round even if you're busy. Um, I think though that because of Ryu's actions, I think it would maybe be smart of a Lily to try to work with him more. Um, and so I think if people are smart, I would try to swoop in and pick him up, especially with Aaliyah being less active. Um, I think he could potentially be seen as more of a th free agent because of Aaliyah being inactive, as I said. Um, but I still think that he is going to be an option every single round going forward. If not an option, always going to be the decoy name. And at some point, it's like, when do you have to at some point get rid of that person because they're just going to be a goat to the end. Um, so. I probably have to agree with the one. He just didn't like unfortunately didn't do anything. I mean, he had a good conversation with Lily afterward, but it's again, Lily has like the power to where she needs to decide how she wants to proceed in the game.
That relationship has been so bizarre because like
Hmm.
I knew it obviously was adversarial since the east of it all, Mikey inflating the rubber ducky. But like from this point onwards, it didn't seem hostile. It felt like they were fine. Like obviously, like Lily wasn't prioritizing Mikey really at all at any point in this game. And I thought that after the like Morgan boot of it all, that would bring Lily and Mikey, whenever they reunited, closer. Because they both were duped by Ryu and Sergio, and they were both kind of left out in the dust to both losing their closest person on that tribe, to then kind of just being like for not necessarily like trying to like avenge Morgan, but kind of in a way like come to each other like they have a common enemy rather than like a common like person that they're grieving. And from there, just be like, hey, we were honest about what the hell we were doing. We were transparent about where our heads were at. We weren't lying to each other. Let's work together and move forward. And what's concerning me even more about Mikey is that Lily's talking to Bryant about their course of action, and their course of action should involve Mikey. While I do question whether it should involve both Aaliyah and Mikey, I think for sure they don't lose anything by trying to clue in Mikey at all. But the fact it still doesn't even include him, it's insane. Like I, of course, am going to again, like I'm going to keep saying during this thing, I am obviously going to knock people for not playing optimally. But there's obviously understanding there's a curve for how I assess people and give people stocks because obviously they don't know what we know as production members. We see all the conversations, we can join all the VCs. They obviously are not privy to the information that we are privy to. But I'm going to knock the person for not like like making them aware to what is their most optimal move. Like we're talking about Tony. Like obviously Wu is dumb for taking Tony over Cass, but Cass is still bad for not convincing Wu to do it. Like and being outplayed by Tony in that situation. Like I'm going to knock both of those players down. So Mikey's a one and probably a lower one than Aaliyah because I think that there is hope for Aaliyah to improve because she's
Well,
so I am.
also I think that the argument is that even after this, people were still wanting to work with Aaliyah and made clear statements, being like, like you said about Ryu, he wanted to lock in something with, Caleb, Ryu, and Aaliyah. Um, I mean, for Jeremy, he said he like his only path forward is really kind of with Aaliyah and maybe a Mikey. But so she has slightly better connections than Ryu, even if she's so like barely more active than him, and it's debatable at times. So
I who do I talk about next? I'm eyeing two people to talk about. I do we want to do we want to take out the rest of the people who were not in on the plan
I th I think in my mind, I'm kind of debating between do we go with Jeremy next or
or
do we go
Brian?
with Bryant
I was
next?
I was that those were the two I was eyeing because I was like I feel like Brian Jeremy because Caleb and Edward I think are the heads of this move and Lily I
Mhm.
think is the person clearly being most maybe not the shot at but clearly had the biggest reaction and had the biggest effect of this move would be the three main characters of this round if you will. Um
Yeah. I think Bryant probably first because he had the least amount of impact of the remaining four.
got it. I'll go first.
Okay.
Brian has been such an interesting person to watch, and it's kind of like I was starting to worry that like he was losing his allies, he was losing his numbers, and I explicitly said, I mean, hey, like at least it wasn't J1 that went home. That would be bad. But then J1 went home, and indeed it was bad. So Bryant's woke the fuck up right now, which I'm really happy. I'm hoping to see like what like because he's already was woken up. He was being told that he was a target like over Kevin. He put in the necessary work to make sure it was going to be um Kevin going over him. And this round, he had a very similar philosophy, but instead of it being Bryant versus Kevin, it was Bryant versus Jeremy. And he done enough work to where it was going to be Jeremy over Bryant at a point, or at least to a certain number of people. Um, and was able to, and what it seemed like he was going on trajectory to do, get rid of Mikey, which while I don't think that was necessarily his move per se, I do think that this does benefit him and does at least keep some of his more important people on the board. But losing J1, losing that weapon, that tool, that the idol, and just losing J1, just period, obviously is really bad for his game, even more so than Lily, who reacted way stronger about the aftermath and like the effects that this move had on her. It was more like an emotional thing, like a person, like how it affected her and how dumb and betrayed she felt. Whereas Bryant's, it felt like obviously he was still upset by it. He claims in his chat that he can be a like petty in a way that he just can't be in his real life in these games. So it's like I kind of want to see how calculated that is, or unless it's going to be just petty for like the sake of like making like fun TV moments, you know? Like you see people kind of getting butthurt, like kind of seeing the writing on the wall, or is Bryant going to buckle down and continue to be calculated and poignant, but not forgetting what happened, like trying to forgive and but not forget, if you will. Bryant, I think, have the people who were not involved in the move. I crazily enough have the most potential to not only find a path to get out of it, but actually get out of it. I think that Bryant has put in a lot of good work as is to make him not the target, which I forgot who said this to me, but it was in an org, maybe it was a VLDR, whatever. It was like, you don't need to be the fastest horse in Survivor. You just need to not be the slowest. And I feel like he's good at pacing himself, so he's not like flaming out super fast. Like he's not doing too much, but also doing enough to where like it's still like he's still present in the game. From what I'm trying to remember from like the trust rankings, for example, he has gone up ever so slightly. He was seventh out of 10th, and now he's fifth out of nine. And he continued his upward trajectory and being more trusted by people in the game. I do think that him now having the Zap gun and kind of having not just obviously you already had Lily as someone who perceived him as their number one, but also now with her trust in Caleb and Edward and Ryu compromised, who are not going to look out for Bryant at all, kind of opens this door to where he can now make a group that's better for him specifically. For the sake of the fact he did not get his way, he was blindsided this round, and he lost J1. I will give him a five, which is it's so sad that I'm now just realizing this is the highest I've ranked anybody so far, and we're more than halfway through the people here. But he can move on up. High key, I could see him as arguably a contender after this round, just because like he losing J1 was
That
not
bar's in hell.
yeah, but like losing J1 is not good, but Lily losing trust in the alliance that she was riding it out with was good for him specifically.
To answer a question you had about Brian's pettiness, I think that he will do it in a calculated way because Bryant, he is okay with being seen as wanting to play for second because he doesn't want to play kind of like like a Ryu game where he's like a big personality and all this. Um, so he wants to play very low key and get people before they get him, and they don't realize that they should have got him out sooner. Um, yeah, I think that this was a good and bad week for him because losing J1 was bad, but Lily was already like solidly in the Bryant camp. but now she's even more solidly in that camp because of the move. Um, and I think that I feel like sooner rather than later, we're going to see the Zap gun come out because he sees that expiration date of using it for one of the two times, because he has options on when he can use it, but the expiration for it is coming. And so he has to start thinking, okay, when do I do it? I'm almost worried that we are gonna have an advantage get-in kind of situation happen because I think that it's gonna be a domino effect of Bryant uses Zap Gun, Lily uses Bracelet, Ryu uses Idol, Caleb uses Idol, Lily uses Idol, and then we lose like an Edward or one of the people who doesn't have anything. Honestly, worst case scenario in that is Edward leaves. And so, but like it could be all for nothing if like no, like if like an Aaliyah or Jeremy leaves, or if Mike out, depending on what happens this upcoming round, like if like Aaliyah, Jeremy, or Mikey leave, that's not like the worst thing to happen because they aren't as critical centerpieces in the game. So like the advantage get in was kind of anticlimactic in that sense. But if like you lose an Edward, then it's like, yes, very dramatic. But I see him potentially causing that by using the zap gun, and I think that could be the domino piece that causes Ryu to finally use his idol. Um, and so really in this upcoming round, I want to see how he builds. He needs to use this longer time that they have this round to build stronger connections to make it further in the game. But I think that he also is someone who these other people should look at on how you position yourself when you aren't going to be as active. He clearly said, "Hey, I'm going to be available during these times." And then I can try to be around through messages, but at least like for calls, these are my times. And people took advantage of that. He was messaging, and then um he did a few calls, and so he did it in a great way for someone who wasn't going to be as active. So I have to give him his flowers for that. Um, I think I will have to agree with the five. Um, he it was a bad round for him, but it was bad round for almost everyone, really. Um, but he didn't do anything bad. I think that the more negative for him is losing J1 is really like the net negative for him.
I feel like if they did this right and it ended up falling on like a Leo or Mikey somehow. Like they perceived like for some reason like Lily was closer to one of those two than J1. Um and tried to do this behind Lily's back. That I Baby Lily doesn't have the big reaction that she does to everything because like she does not trust them. Those are second and third last, I think, on her trust rate is at least her most recent iteration of it. Um, yeah, no, I'm just intrigued to see this. Like, I feel like it's a sacrifice he can recover from. That there can at least be
Mhm.
salvaged in some way. Like, obviously, like in an ideal world, it wasn't J1 who got sent home. I think J1 was someone who genuinely really cared about taking Bryant further into this game. Maybe a trio of Bryant, Lily, and J1 was something that like, I genuinely felt like would have made a lot of sense. Like for
It
them
would
to,
have.
if that would ended up being the final three, then that would be a situation where Bryant has like a not the greatest chance, but I think has a shot as trying
Mhm.
to rationalize himself as the more strategic of the three. But with that, did we want to talk about Lily first, or do we want to talk about Jeremy first?
Let's
Because
do Jeremy, I
got it.
think.
And you can go first.
Okay. Um, Jeremy is still in a very interesting position of he almost went home this round. it was going to be him, and then the core alliance said, I think it's probably better that we don't get rid of Jeremy this round. I think that he potentially could have been an easy vote this round for them to get rid of, but they didn't want to upset Edward. Edward was like kind of, if it happened, it happened. He wasn't gonna put up a huge fight to keep Jeremy. Um, but he's in an interesting position now of he has a lot of space to move around. He just has to put in work to do it. And he's been on record saying it's been on record by him, it's been on record by Megan, his girlfriend, in his prod chat, by saying his social game is shit. So if he can improve it, he has a lot of room to navigate because of the crack that happened in this alliance. I mean, he got put into an alliance with Caleb, Edward, Ryu, and himself. I don't know how strong that alliance actually is because Caleb, Edward, and Ryu, or at least Caleb and Ryu, are in like a bunch of alliances, and I don't believe half of them are real. Um, but he got told in the 12th hour, I'm gonna say, by Caleb, Edward. I don't remember if Ryu told him.
He did.
Oh, okay. So he got told by those three to vote for um Jay because they knew that he would do it. Um, so I mean, good on him for being able to be seen as this number four people, but how well that does for his actual game, I don't know. But I mean, I think that Jeremy, anyone leaving other than him is probably a good thing. Because I mean, he he this open Jay leaving is good for him only in the sense of it caused a crack in this alliance and caused more room to maneuver. If they would have just done a Mikey, then there would have been room for him to slide into this alliance in any way, shape, or form other than potentially Edward doing work on his own. But now there's he has more options available. But still, he's not in the greatest position. He's been on a few calls today to hopefully make it better. Um, so I'm kind of optimistic on his future. And for this round, I didn't think that he did a terrible job, given that he was kind of busy during Tribal Day. Um, so I'm gonna give him a tentative five, but I'm open to changing it as I normally am.
I was Jeremy has been like you said, I'm not mad at the work that Jeremy had put in this round. Like it felt like he was losing the last banana standing battle with Brian, like very deliberately, and like he even made it a point, like in his project, to acknowledge this. It's like, oh, good thing he feels the same way about me, even though he's inadvertently fucked me over. Like he seemed, it's so weird because like there's times where he seems like resigned to the fact that he's going to lose, he's going to get voted off, but then just at some point he like it's actually putting in some good work. And I think, like we said, like he has these excellent reads on the game. And I think now that he has these cracks going on with these alliances, all these like social juggernauts, these people who he had been perceiving as big threats, now there could be room for like a warring feud. That Jeremy can absolutely take advantage of and say, look, it looked like I was going to be on the bottom. My social game was not the greatest, but then I was recruited into this plan to vote off J1. I was an integral number in that. And knowing it is a terrible move for everyone involved except for me. I could see him trying to sell that at Final Tribal Council if he were to make it there. Um, it's weird because like with Lily's reaction to it all, like her frustration is like, you trust Jeremy more than me. Like she's so aghast, by the audacity of it all. But I could see like some, God forbid, right? Some Sergio upside. Not in like what happened in reality, but like me looking at the Morgan move of it all, of like Ryu is going to be the one taking the brunt of the blame, but no one's going to be mad at Sergio for doing. That's how I assess the move after the fact. I'm like, Lily even said to herself, like, she had no reason to be mad at Sergio's like, Sergio, no hard feelings. You had to do what you had to do. No respect, complete respect, like, no disrespect, complete respect to you. And I could see Lily and other people reacting to Jeremy being involved in this. And like, honestly, that's fair. He was in a considerable amount of danger this round. And the recurring narrative is that it was a last minute thing. And Jeremy will corroborate that absolutely because it was not even just last hour, last minute. It was last nanosecond that this was happening. So it's that the superlatives he wins aren't the greatest. You know, the best at lying to your face, person playing a second place game, which that shocked me. Bryant, I kind of understood, but Jeremy was a little bit confusing because I didn't. Obviously, I'm seeing things that they're not, but. I hope that reputation doesn't follow him into the end game. That is my concern. I think that if he next couple rounds some big players get taken out, then I think he can actually like reveal himself to be the threat that he actually is and can actually pose. But if some nobodies, if at least like relative to like who we have here, like if some people like get sent home as like perceived goats, then even to Jeremy's own estimations, he can't take that many people to the end. And so if one of those people gets sent home, then he's cooked. I'm also going to give him a five. I agree with it. I hope I didn't talk you out of it. Because I do believe that this is the best rating to give him. And I don't know whether his five is higher than Bryant's five, though. Like,
Yeah, they're a weird, like, it's hard to compare the two
yeah.
fives. Even comparing it to my Ryu five is hard.
Well, I didn't give Rio a five.
No, I was just
Yeah,
saying for
no,
me,
no,
myself.
I get it.
Yeah, yeah.
But let's head on over to Lily,
Oh
and
God.
I will go first. Because and me and Jared were talking about this before the recording started. Like, how do we measure how do we like determine the stocks knowing things that took place after this round? Like, we don't, as much as ideal as it would be to do it immediately after votes so that we can be as authentic, like genuine about this as possible. We have lives. And by the time tribal council ends, knowing how much of yappers we are, we're going to be here till 11 midnight. So at least we need to get it out the way at times where we're not doing other things. Um, and my philosophy is that if it's accurate to how I felt after the the vote off happens, like my immediate thoughts on like how this is going to affect Lily, then I feel like that's accurate to speak upon if it's correct. Like if my prediction was that Lily was not going to handle this well, she was going to give Ryu more shit for Ryu doing Ryu things, and is immediately clocking what Caleb was doing and completely sees how transparent this move was, whether it was true or not that how last minute was, which it was, and is now being more precarious and more cautious about those three moving forward, then I would say this right here and confidently give a stock rating based off of that because it is true. That is what's happening right now. She is telling Ryu clearly this move set up Caleb. You just set up Caleb to do really well, and is talking to Bryant about wanting to take the shot at Caleb sooner rather than later, believing that Caleb is the big like, enactor of this move. And I think that her reaction garnered the amount of sympathy she needed from them to kind of feel like, damn, maybe let's not do that ever again. Maybe let's not upset her to this much. Um, but the problem is that I have with Lily, it's it's two concerns. Because like I mentioned before, she could win just off sheer just likability, charisma alone. I think people on this cast genuinely do love her. And while I don't necessarily know if we have a villain, my vote would be for Ryu if we had to assign one. I don't even, it's not even a question who hero is. It's Lily. Like someone who speaks so openly at Tribal Council about trying to play an honest game, and I think being genuine and forthright about like, oh, I struggle with BSing people who I don't trust, who I'm not working with. Like people can hop on these calls and be doing that for like hours on straight, and they're clearly really good at it. I'm not. I know I'm not good at it, and can kind of just make a case for herself just off of her social or strong bonds with people and how she's getting people to trust her. The problem is, I remember I thought Ryu was completely dead in the waters after the Morgan vote, at least with Lily. And the only reason why Ryu gained as much trust back with Lily was because she was forced to placate him in a position where he was in the majority, like considering like OG tribe lines and stuff like that. And then he won immunity and extended the her being forced to work with him and play around. But she genuinely started to trust him again, which makes me. And when she's talking to Bryant about who this group is moving forward, she's considering Edward, Jeremy, and potentially Ryu as the people to recruit, which just screams to me that she is setting herself up for the same thing happening again. Only that is my fear. That is my concern for Lily right now. And not that I think that she will lose win equity for being perceived to playing like an emotional, like kind of like not strategic at all game. Because clearly she is smart, and I do think that there are some people who are aware of the fact that how capable she is. Just like her social game is so strong that like it offsets any weakness she may have strategically or any lack of foresight, if you will. Um, I'm glad that she's or at least I hope that Bryant can kind of get her on the right path to making the correct decision as to who to take out moving forward. Because if I feel like at first she was contemplating getting rid of like like a nothing person, but then getting rid of Caleb down the road. I don't think she has that flexibility anymore, and I'm worried that the longer she continues to forgive these people, the more they're going to take advantage of it, and she will be irate at them, absolutely, but she will be irate at them from the jury. That is my concern for Lily. I am going to give her a tentative 4, but you can sway me other way. I know that's pretty low,
Okay.
especially for how highly I've been thinking of Lily, but I just my concerns of her are piling up
Yeah.
right now.
Um, I think that this was really the final straw with Ryu and her. Like she's going like she pretty much is like he's pretty much like burned the bridge with her, even though she's like talking, being like saying that like is involving him like in plans and stuff, but she doesn't really trust him whatsoever. Out of those the three people in the alliance that she was in, she only really trusts Edward um after the move. Be because this is the second time Ryu has done this to her. He reacts he, he responds poorly to her in trying to put out the fire that he started, and she's over it. Like she said something in the regards of she had a bunch of great one-liners in the conversation with Ryu. She, she said that the Canadian to American conversion isn't equal. Like give the man a like man justification for it and like man way of like putting out shit that he does. But she's like, no, this bullshit isn't gonna work on me. And it never really like she had to like move past it because she was forced to work with Rio, but now it's just like he doesn't listen to her is the main issue. And I was just loving every second of listening to their call because I was like, yes, get his ass because she's keeping it 100 with him and she wasn't sugarcoating it. It was amazing. Um, but she's clearly identified that she does need to get rid of Caleb and Ryu, sooner rather than later. And she clearly identified that she's kind of back into a corner now because of this dumb decision by them. And all they truly needed to do was they needed to, the millisecond they told Jeremy, they needed to tell Lily. If they would have used that same millisecond to tell both of them, this fire could have been avoided. She would have been way less mad if they did that small thing but they didn't think about it. Ryu especially should have had the foresight to go, we need to tell Lily. And I understand why they were afraid to, but Ryu should learn from his previous mistake in telling Lily about this. Edward is kind of in a similar position to Sergio, I would say, um, because he's not getting as much blowback on the decision, even though he is getting like some blowback, but the other two are like shielding him from the blowback. Like they're not in like their actions, it's just those Caleb and Ryu are just truly getting the brunt of Lily being pissed. Um, so I still think see a path forward with her and Edward, but I don't think she did anything bad this round, other than, you know, you could say that she was just very emotional post it, but she just felt so betrayed by these people who she had spent so much time on call with beforehand, going over this decision. She was very open to voting for Jay. She was very open. It's like she didn't give a crap who left between Jay and Mikey. I think it's worse for her that probably Jay left, but she didn't care who left. She was literally on call with Caleb during Survivor and like for a long time, for like a good portion, of Survivor. And I wasn't on the call because I was watching Survivor, but they were probably still discussing it. And they sent very similar messages to Ryu about saying they think that, and they timed it, I think, perfectly to where they didn't send it like that close to each other, to where it's like it would be suspicious that they were talking. So I had to give them Caleb and her props for that. But you have to think about those things when you do these moves. And if she would have, let's say, like gone out this round, then I understand how pissed she would have been because I felt that same way before. So all her emotions are so valid, and I just say it from her point of view because I was on a lot of her calls. Um, but again, she didn't do anything wrong this round. It's just the people that she was playing with decided the very last second that they got a weird vibe from Aaliyah being asleep, Mikey being inactive, and Jay being inactive. So they decided last second to get rid of Jay, even though she would have been okay with the plan. So I don't know how much to negatively impact her score based off of that alone. And she's very clearly like has kind of a clear picture on her path forward of, and I say that just being like she's kind of forced into working with potentially Caleb, Edward, and Ryu still. But I think that if she can get rid of like a Ryu or Caleb, then that could open more doors for her. But I think that realistically, like her, Jeremy, Bryant need to work together to get rid of. Oh, sorry, and Edward. I think her and Edward should still like work together. But I don't know how to score her because again, I don't know. Think that she played that bad this round, other than her allies just making a decision without her for whatever reason, and it was a stupid decision on their end. And I think it was such a dumb decision. Like this is potentially, depending on how the season turns out, and if like Caleb and Ryu go out back to back, or don't make it as far as they could have, this is potentially the worst move of the season. And that it's it all depends on what happens further on. But if like you were to give like three things, this could be in contention for one of those three right now. Would it win? I don't think so because Sanam still, had the idol that she could have played, but it could beat that at some point, I think. But I just don't know how to rate her because I keep repeating myself over and over again. She didn't play bad. She's just playing with people who didn't trust. It's not that they didn't trust her. They just wanted to do this plan that they didn't think that she would go with, even though she would have gone with them. And it was a stupid decision on their end. So I don't know how to rate her.
it's like even like as you're speaking, I'm like waffling. I'm like, do I keep it at a four? Do I bump it up to a five? What's like keeping me from doing this is that like to compare. I'm like, okay, I gave Ryu a four because I have faith in him to do good work, to not do okay, to not undercut his good work. Jeremy and Bryant both Bryant not neither of them were integral like to the formation of this plan, this last minute plan. The difference is Jeremy's a five because he was actually clued in on it, and did get saved, at least partially due to him having some good relationships with people. And Bryant is a five because while despite the fact that he was blindsided, his philosophy moving forward, I think is better and more rational for like what he should be doing. I've never doubted Bryant's ability to observe a situation. I don't doubt either Jeremy or Bryant's, for that matter, their ability to read or observe a situation and be like, okay, like this is the path I should take, this is the path I shouldn't take, and them actively pursue the one that they shouldn't. I've seen them weigh that out in their prod chats, and not and like what consider whether or not they should. But ultimately, I've agreed with the decision they've landed on. I want to see that from Lily this round. But based off of her own admission to what her weaknesses are in the game, that's my concern that she won't. Like I think that Ryan and Lily, who they should pick up, is Aaliyah and Mikey. That's my read on the
Yeah.
thing. I don't think they should be looking at Jeremy or Edward. I feel I think at least keeping them close enough to where they clearly know, okay, they don't feel as burned by us, but getting rid of an Aaliyah or Mikey is just conceding and just kind of like I said, I feel like setting themselves up to be blindsided further down the road and kind of letting Caleb, Ryu, and Edward, as much as I think she distrusts Edward the least of everybody. Like just letting them slide for what they did. Like a slap on the wrist, like don't do that again. Like that's I hope she doesn't do that. But I'm worried that she will.
I don't know, because I think that like Caleb would do it again. Ryu, I mean, it's Ryu, so there's a great chance he'd do it again. I feel like Edward might be more hesitant to do it again. At least I would hope so. Um, because I think he does realize that Lily is a good ally for him and is a number for him. So he shouldn't do anything else to burn her. Um, I don't know. It's hard because like she like I still think she could make it far, but I still don't think she played that bad this round. And I could be personally biased towards her. Uh, I think I just and the last two remaining are very interesting that they're the last two. So my score for her might change based off our discussion with these, with Caleb and Edward. No, I'll give her a tentative. This might shock you. I'm gonna give her a tentative six because I don't hate the gameplay. That's the biggest thing.
No, that's fair. I think that she definitely played the best of the three of those people, like that I've given five, like this round specifically, and was at least in a weird way, like despite the fact that Jeremy actually voted this way, like was actually closer to being a decision maker this round. Whereas like Jeremy was like this tag along, like it's kind of like who would do it?
Hmm.
Jeremy. Okay, but listen to like Jeremy didn't do anything to put himself in that position. Like obviously he has like Edward, has some semblance of a relationship with Caleb, and really has nothing to lose. And I guess it's just from them reading Jeremy as a player. Whereas like Lily was in the quickies, like was having these conversations, like and it seemed like they were ultimately the ones making the decision. It's just they made the decision without her. So I get it, it's fair. Um, Caleb and Edward. To be honest, I feel like we could talk about them in tandem.
It's fine.
I think I am this will shock you. I think the only person that I think played good on all cylinders. I honestly, the only straight up green I think I'm probably giving is to Edward. How high that is, do not know. But I feel
Hmm.
like with how like because I remember like I explicitly said like if Jeremy survives this round, my stock in Edward increases. And his position ultimately is very much better. The quickies essentially decide to save Jeremy entirely because of Edward. Nothing to do with their personal relationships with like Jeremy, which like I think are existent. I think Jeremy's a fun person to talk to, don't get me wrong. But I think a primary factor to Jeremy's survival was just this fear of upsetting Edward, which they were not afraid of upsetting Lily and the repercussions, despite the fact that one of the people involved in this move know exactly what those repercussions are when upsetting Lily. But the fact that they were so adamant from so early on, like, okay, we're not voting off Jeremy because I don't think Edward's gonna like this. And like even despite the fact that he wasn't very similarly to Lily, like we're talking about Lily playing pretty well, which I agree. Like how she wasn't as caring about Jaewon going. Edward seemed to be more on the docile side, which is the one thing I don't like. I don't like that he wasn't fighting as hard as he should have been for keeping Jeremy, because Jeremy is a very important a player and component to his game. I am happy for him now after this fact that not only Jeremy survived, but got rid of somebody to alienate Lily as much from the Caleb and the Ryu side of things. Because while Caleb wants to take Edward to final two, and I guess he reaped some benefits from keeping Caleb for a little bit longer as a potential shield in front of him. Like you said, he's the person catching the least amount of heat with this decision. He's the person who Lily and Bryant are considering making a core alliance from and running the table moving forward. He can theoretically, if that is the alliance that ends up seizing the day, then Edward can claim the Sanam vote being involved in that and claim this big J1 move, sniping them both with idols in their pocket, and yet having received absolutely no repercussions for this. And usually, when someone doesn't get really much of anything during touchy subjects, I am concerned because that means that like they're irrelevant in the game. But for someone who's playing as well as Edward is, and for someone who is on the upwards trajectory, kind of still in the top half of people's trust rankings, which right now these two are dropping
Hmm.
considerably, magnificently. I honestly, I would be shocked if Edward's the most trusted person after this point, because he is not does not have as many cookie hands in the cookie jars as Caleb and Ryu do. Caleb, I think this was a bad move for Caleb. For like threat management, for management of his relationship with Lily specifically, for long-term prospects in the game. Yes, he gets rid of an idol off of the board, but J1 was not looking at him yet. Like I do think that the better move, realistically, was actually getting at this point where you're going to piss off Lily as much as you are. You might as well should have gotten rid of Lily, because
Yeah.
like that probably was way better for him. Like I talked about, those two are going to acknowledge each other. They're going to want to take a shot. And Caleb was in the position, was on the call at the right perfect time to potentially take a shot at Lily, but wasn't even integral to her main plan. Like, yes, she wanted J1 maybe around for like a round or two longer. I think she preferred Mikey going over J1, don't get me wrong. But to take that shot and alienate and piss off Lily this much to just keep her around and think, well, I'll do it again. It's just he's giving so much ammo to Edward to use against Caleb. It's the way he's talking about it, so unapologetically. Like I think he feels the least bad of the three by far, despite Ryu's reaction to this. I feel like Edward is setting himself up really well, and I've continued to be impressed more and more by him and his gameplay. Whereas Caleb, I think, is on the decline because now I think he's emerging as a villain, as somebody who was doing super good in the first half of the game, being really good, well insulated socially, But I think now, kind of similar to Ryu, it's now becoming obvious to lots of people what Caleb is doing. And yes, he has this idol, but now Lily is going to recruit someone who knows of Edward's idol into the plan of potentially taking him out soon. So Edward can potentially circumvent this or either play Caleb, Lily against each other. I no, I primarily focused on Edward. I just feel like this is a bad move all around for Caleb. I This just felt unnecessary. Like he could have just gotten rid of Mikey. I think that would have been fine. Like I don't think that getting rid of Mikey or J1 is any difference to his position. But one of them, I think, amplifies his target. One of them loses tons of trust with lots of people. And like granted, he was able to get it back with Aaliyah like very shortly afterwards. But like it's like he
I
could be
don't know though.
fine, but I give Caleb a tentative five because we're on the track of giving everyone fives. But I honestly I give Edward a nine. I think that's the only honestly I was very heavily considering 10 because I just feel like this round could not have played any better for Edward. Like he's getting heat, which I would expect him to,
Mhm.
but I think just how he's currently able to get away with this is still being the person that Bryant and Lily thinking first thought, oh, like Bryant sent a voice memo or like a confessional today asking, I need to get the people who think that they're at the bottom, and me and Lily gonna link up with them, and then because he wants to sap some motherfuckers. But their last conversation when Lily and Brian were talking about a group included Edward, who is
Mhm.
definitely not at the bottom. So yeah, no, I'm proud of that you could talk about them both, dude.
I wanted, I almost gave Lily a 10 only because of her comebacks alone. Because again, I can't stress that enough. Her comebacks, not even her comebacks, her reading Ryu was just flawless. And I wish people could have heard it because I was sending quote after quote in the prod chat.
Oh,
It
episode
was,
quotes galore. Lily guaranteed has the episode quote this round. It's just a matter of which one.
hold on, I need to, there was,
It was, yeah, I don't need you to tell me I'm right because I already know that was
no, I
great.
want to like read one because it's just still so funny. Um, Also, I was roasting some people in our pro chat. Shoot. The American. Oh, I don't need you to tell me I'm right. I know I'm right.
That's all I just say. Yeah,
That's just an example of what she
it's
was doing to this
exceptional. Yeah.
man. Uh, um, yeah, so I agree. Edward really played this round great. I think that what really helped him, he kind of did what Lily did during the Kevin vote of he didn't push too hard to save Jeremy. Just like Lily didn't push too hard to save Bryant. It kind of naturally happened. And so that's where we need to give Edward credit of he was willing to let go of Jeremy. So that's a good sign to this very fractured alliance of, hey, we know Edward has Jeremy, but he has proven to us, at least through words, that he is willing to put us above him. That builds trust with them, even though, he lost some points with Lily in that department, but he was still willing to do it if needed. Um, and he didn't receive major blowback for the decision. And compared to Caleb, it's exactly like you said, his threat management is really bad right now because Lily sees him. Lily was already wanting was already viewing Caleb as a large target. Jeremy was already viewing him as a large target. Bryant, I don't think, was targeting Caleb as much, but he now is definitely like, yeah, we need to get rid of Caleb. Um, Ryu, I don't know what the fuck he's gonna do. Um, Jay, where did Jay put Caleb? I have it.
I'm pulling up right now. Jay
He put
had Caleb
5.
at five, like in the middle. Could have been better, could have been worse.
So like, it's a I don't think getting out Jay was a bad move from Caleb. but it's just solely the way he went about it was bad. I think, and I wish I could have been on, they had a call and since we've been talking, and I wish I could have heard it to see like what happened. But Edward just played it so much better. And I think that, of course, Caleb didn't play it bad, but it was just, he was already like in a position to where he was like already like on thinner ice than Edward. And so he's going to get way more pushback on it. Um, and I don't think that they needed to do this theatrical thing of changing at the very last minute. I think that if they wanted to do it, they should have just said it a lot sooner. And I understand why they didn't do it, but if and I understand why they what they thought of Lily, but if my this is how I am in alliances. If you want to do this, I need you to just be truthful with me and tell me this is what I'm thinking. Because if I'm giving you all this information, then I expect you to give it back, even if it's like a move like this. And then it's like if we're actually in alliance, we can either move past it or we can just vote separately if I disagree with the move, but we can still work together. And Caleb has said, and I do it again. So I don't think he played it well. I do think Edward did play it a lot better. Um, Caleb, I think I'll agree with the five, just because I think that when you look at him compared to like previous rounds, you do have to dock him points for it, but he still was like in a good enough social position to know that, Caleb, Edward, and Ryu, those he knew that them three needed to vote together and to get Jeremy, and they could get their way. But he just did it in a way that wasn't optimal for his game. Edward, he got to keep Jeremy. He takes out, I say he, but those four people took out an idol. Um, he took out a person that was good to take out for him. Thank you. You knew exactly where I was going. Oh, okay, but where did he rank him?
J1 put Edward at third, and Edward put J1 at five. Like, could have been better, could have been worse. But I do
But
think that, yeah, sorry.
no, 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 you're good. I just think though that overall it was a good decision to get rid of J1 when they did because I just didn't really see a path of Edward and J1 working together. And I think it's especially good for like Edward, Mikey, and Lily, because if you're looking at like OG tribes, which I could go on a tangent about in this cast and not remembering colors and shit. It shows that those four, now three, they didn't really have to worry about them. And it can give off of a perception of like, oh, they're not really working together, so we don't have to worry about those three as a thing. So what could potentially happen is if like Edward, Mikey, Lillian, and maybe like a Bryant or someone else like got together, that'd be an unlikely foursome, and they could go far into the game because this move makes it seem like we just got rid of, someone from our original tribe. We're fine with doing it. Um, but yeah, the way Edward did it was every overall it was like a net positive for him, even though he like lost trust with Lily. But as we've said, she didn't lose that much trust in him, and he just has to be careful from now on how he goes about working with Lily to not because if he does anything again, if like he'll be in big trouble because she just like won't trust him. Um, I'm debating a high score. Um, do I give? Oh my God, I'm like debating an eight or a nine. Um, in this messy round, let's give him a nine.
Let's go, Edward, my boy. But this is the perfect segue to the shortest segment of listing off contenders in history. So Edwards won. I guess I feel like that's
Yeah.
the only person we think played good this round. And I'm already preserved the over the top super positive for Lily. Just see this. Just clearly tell me we're not. She's not a production pet at this point. Um, and a part of me. I mean, this is a perfect cutoff to just do three people. Just to do,
Yeah.
yeah. So Edward's not it. I feel like just based off just like looking at, I mean, we gave Mikey and Aaliyah both ones. I feel
Hmm.
like Ryu's kind of out of it right now.
Yeah.
And so we can consider the path of including the other two people who are involved in this plan, one of which who had lots of social capital and lost a lot with only lost stuff with Lily, but is someone who is a rival to them in terms of control. And they would probably be better off taking them out soon anyways. Or do we give it to kind of like the people on the up and up, the people who were probably affected the most by the move, from a perception and from like a reality standpoint, and are making the active efforts to now get out those people? Like
For
a part.
me, sorry. Um, for me, I feel like it's still like even for me, I'm still thinking it's Caleb and Lily in the top because like Caleb got the most likely to win and then he does this move. But I still think that he's a he got all of that and then I still think he there's a way for him to get to the end. It's going to be harder, but I think that I don't know Ryu's plan if it's a final three, but um I think Ryu would maybe want to go far with Caleb, even though I think that'd be a bad decision. Um, so there's a path for him to the end, especially if like Lily stays with them for like two more rounds. And by two more rounds, I just mean like they get rid of like an Aaliyah and Mikey in the upcoming rounds. Then it'd be even harder for Lily to take him out. So I think that he still has a path to the end. And if he gets to the end, I can see him winning. So I think that you have to keep him in contention. And Lily, like people like Caleb sees her as a threat and doesn't want it out and think wants to go like super far with her and would cut her. But I think that it's potentially would be hard to cut her. And again, I think she is a big contender if she makes it to the end.
I agree. I hate cutting off so abruptly, but I feel like yeah, because I was like thinking like it doesn't even have to be just both, like both Caleb and Jeremy or both Lily and Brian. It was like a mix of the two. Having the person whom I think had already had some win equity. I don't think necessarily is lost any due to this, unless J1 wants his lick back. But no, I this has been a very interesting round, and I said it at Tribal. This final nine is a pivotal round in most of these games. I think final nine during your season of Spellbound was very pivotal. I think the final nine in not necessarily as much in prior seasons, but in other games that I've hosted as well. I think final nine was like the point of shaping up the end game and kind of like establishing who the contenders are, like who are the people actually like running the table moving forward.
Hmm.
And I think now we could see what separates, because I think this is probably the strongest cast. It's so weird because despite the fact that they're so indecisive, I think when they express what they feel, I'm like, yeah, that's right. So that's how you should be thinking. But it's just the indecisiveness, the waffling, the
Yeah.
that I really hope dies down. I'm hoping if there's not decisiveness after this round, I don't know what. I don't know when. But with that, this has been the Spellbound Survivor Stockwatch. It's been Jacob Armstrong, Jared Denny, and we'll see you guys next time when for Rio's funeral after Lily murders him. Take it easy.